Hi and welcome to the Three Cups Full blog. I'm Sharanya and I'm a life coach. And in this blog we talk about how to live full of love, acceptance and respect, which are the three cups. And when you're full on the inside, the outside world reflects it back to you. We also talk about our inner voice and how to follow the voice of our soul to allow the path of our soul to unfold before us, as opposed to listening to our mind, which is often riddled with fear. So I received a message just a couple of weeks ago from a lovely follower of the blog, and she had written a question that I really wanted to address today. It's all about, her question was all about the relationship between a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law. And she expressed a little bit of frustration and sadness and a bit of hurt at her mother-in-law, who lives with her family, which is her husband and her small child, so the three of them. Her husband's mom lives with her family permanently, and she expressed her frustration and hurt and sadness at what she perceives that her mother-in-law kind of alienates her from discussions and from the group dynamics. So her husband is an only child, and her mother-in-law will only speak up to the child about what the father does, nothing about what the mother does. So it's always, your father did this and he says this, and all the conversations are just surrounded around her son. So she just asked for some tips and ideas around what to do in this situation. So there's a couple of things that I would like to suggest. The first is validation of what you're feeling. So it's okay that I'm feeling this way. It's okay that I'm feeling a bit left out. Acknowledge what you're feeling. Otherwise, you will react from these feelings without knowing where your start point is. So if you're angry, if you're hurt, if you're sad, if you're upset, if you're sad, understand that that's how the situation is making you feel, and acknowledge that and validate that. It's okay to be in the situation and it's okay to feel these things. That's the first step, just to have the awareness of what you're feeling, what this is doing inside your body and inside your temple. The second thing I would suggest is try on her shoes as well. So just imagine what she's feeling. You're in your son's house. You have a relationship with your daughter-in-law and your grandson that you're developing. It might not be that she's wanting you to feel left out. It might be that she's a bit apprehensive to speak about you in case it's misinterpreted. Perhaps just think back if that's happened in the past and there's been an issue about something she said about you or said to the child about you, and that upset you or hurt you, and is she cutting off that part of the conversation to not get in trouble? So just check to see if perhaps that might be what she's feeling. She might just feel safe to talk about her son to her grandson, or to only center topics around her son because she knows she's safe for that. It's not going to cause any trouble. It's also important to acknowledge that he is her only son, and so her life is him and has always been him, and will probably continue to be him if this is the way it's going. And that's very difficult for a third party to come in almost as an equal into that dynamic. That's tough. That there might have to be some acceptance and let go around that he will always be on a pedestal, perhaps, or the center, the apple of her eye, the center of her attention, and that just might be how it's going to be because he is her only son. The third thing I would suggest is communication. So if there is anything that you feel is not being expressed, then chat about it. Just in a kind, loving way. Just say, when you say this and when you're only talking about him, I feel a bit left out. I feel like what I do isn't important. I'd like for you to also talk about me to my child, and for it just to be a little bit more balanced. And and you're allowed to say that. You're allowed to just express what you're feeling and ask for what you want. And I think if it's done in a kind, compassionate way where you're meeting her halfway and you come from an understanding of where she's coming from, it's more likely to be heard and to be followed, or just to be acknowledged. It is a tough conversation. It's a difficult conversation, especially if the culture that you're in doesn't have room for that kind of conversation. Those things aren't spoken about. Those things are just assumed, or pushed under the rug, and you just get over it and you don't talk about things. So knowing that that's the cultural upbringing she might have had, and your husband's had, acknowledge that it is a tough conversation, but it's one that really can bring a lot of healing and connection back into the dynamic. One, you will feel less frustrated because you've expressed. So you've done everything you can to bring awareness to what you're feeling and to what you want. You've communicated, rather than wanting them to mind read or assume what you want, which never works. You want to be upfront, and you want to be clear, and you want to be transparent, communicative, open and honest, and that's the way to build connection and move forward from this. Otherwise you'll be stuck with the conversation repeating in your head but not coming out. So all the things you want to say, and what happens is it becomes a volcano. All that hurt, that sadness, that anger, the suppressed negative feelings bubble, they marinate, they get stronger, and then if one day you snap and communicate what you want to communicate, it's going to come out like poison. It's going to come out really, really like strong, bitter, rage-filled, and it won't be productive and it won't be effective. You will feel better. Trust me, you'll feel better because all of it's out of your system. But as soon as it's out, the next feeling that's going to hit you is guilt, because you've reacted to something significantly small, comparatively small, with maybe years of rage and anger and sadness and hurt, years and years and years of that feeling building up. And they've said one thing, and that's the straw that breaks the camel's back, and they get years of rage coming at them. And so you will feel guilty if you do it that way. The better way, the healthier way, is to think about what you want to communicate, what you're feeling, how you want things to change, what you'd want to see instead, and communicate that. Speak that truth. They might, or they might not, take it on board. And that's okay, because you've done everything you can from your end. You cannot change people. You can't change their minds. You can't change the way they think. Only they can do that. All you can do is express what you're feeling and express what you're thinking, what you're going through, and share that in a vulnerable way. And whatever they do with that is up to them. You will feel better because you've got stuff off your chest, and you've been heard. There's something inside that's saying, what about me? What about what I want? What about what I've done? And you're giving voice to that part of you. But when you do it deliberately and consciously, you do it in a loving, compassionate way, as opposed to an unconscious, rage, hurt-driven, volcanic eruption. And lastly, speak to your husband. Talk to your husband about what's going on and understand his dilemma as well. He's living with his mother and his wife, but express it to him and ask him what you need from him. Tell him what you need from him so that he might be able to put something into practice. Give him ideas about what it is he can do to help the situation, and communicate with him as well. Lastly, but not least, is know that you're not alone. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for your mother-in-law as well as for you. And the best way forward is open communication, a lot of love, a lot of gratitude, and a lot of understanding for yourself and for her. This is a tough situation. It can be a beautiful dynamic, all of you living together under the same roof. Your child really benefits. Your child really benefits from having that beautiful close bond with their grandparent, but there needs to be boundaries in place, and that's where the communication comes in. You need to set some boundaries of in your home of how people are treated, how things are spoken. If there's anything that's what you feel wrong, hurtful, then there needs to be a boundary around that, and say, look, these things cannot be said to my child. Please don't speak like that about me, to my husband or to my child, and put some boundaries in place. And then you'll feel safe, and they will know where too far is. So help them in the situation, because right now they are doing whatever they think is right, whatever they think is okay, and they're not given the chance to do it any differently. So be mindful that they are also in a difficult situation, but also be brave to speak up, to speak your truth. So I hope that's helpful. Definitely let me know how you go with it, and if this is something that you are also dealing with, then I hope this was helpful. It's a difficult thing to have difficult conversations, but you get better at it. The more you do it, the better you get at it. The more comfortable it is, the more relaxed you can be in it, and the more you remember what you want to say in the moment. But it is a skill, and it comes with practice. So that's it for me today. I will see you all next time. If you enjoyed the video, definitely share it with your friends, and subscribe to the blog at 3cupsful.com.au. I will see you all next time. Bye for now.